Today I'll show you how to stretch two of your supplies, metallic watercolors and embossing folders. Learn some easy tips on how to stretch these supplies. Welcome to another color connection with Amber, where I use the color palette in the inspiration photo from the Altenew challenge in order to guide my projects and jumpstart your creativity. Here I have the Flowers and Leaves 3D embossing folder, and this has a beautiful all over pattern on it. And what I'm going to do is pull out a piece of Strathmore black watercolor paper, and I'll run this through my die cutting machine. Now you want to make sure that you use the appropriate sandwich for your machine. So refer to your manufacturer's information if you're unsure what sandwich to use. Here you can see it's all completely embossed, and look how gorgeous that is. This paper embossed beautifully. There aren't any cracks. It went through the machine really well. A good tip when you're using embossing folders, if you're feeling a lot of resistance, stop and make a smaller sandwich. It's too tight and you don't want to ruin your machine. Here I have a pipette of water, and I'm just adding a drop of water to each one of these pans that I think I'm going to use to re-wet the pans. The most important tip when you're working with metallic watercolors is to let this water sit in the pan and rehydrate the pan for a couple minutes before you get started. You're going to get a much more saturated mixture when you do that. So you can see they're all kind of melted, and all of the mica and the pigments that are in this metallic watercolor are just moving beautifully on the page. So I'm taking a pretty thick mixture on my 8 round brush directly to the watercolor paper, and I'm basically taking it all the way to the embossed edge. So I'll do the flowers in 2 different colors, and then I'll do all of the leaves in the same color green. And I'm just putting on solid paint. I'm not going to add any kind of shadows or anything like that. It's going to be a pretty simple painting. Now, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing down below. And at this point, you're probably wondering why I'm not using the inspiration color palette. That inspiration color palette this month was blue, purple, and green. I don't know what it is, you guys, but whenever I open up this metallic watercolor palette, the color that I go to every single time is bronze. That's the color that I'm using now. It's almost like a rose gold. It's gorgeous though, and I don't know what it is. I can't stop myself. I completed this entire card before I realized that this was supposed to be a color connection video, and I used the wrong color palette. So I do hope you forgive me for that. So the color that I'm using now is copper, and as you can see here, this flower that I'm working on right now has kind of 2 different levels. There are petals in the forefront, and then there's also some petals in the background. And so I wanted to delineate between those 2 different levels of petals and show kind of some shading, and so I'm using the copper for that. So any of the flowers that show that they're open, I'll be doing this 2-toned effect, and there's not that many of them. For the other flowers that are head-on or only show 1 level of petals, I'm just going to do them in the solid color of the bronze. For the flowers, I'm using Prosiolite, and I'll use that on the blue and purple card too. I'll use the same color green for the leaves. So basically all I'm doing is I'm just taking the paint all the way up to the edge of the embossed area, but I'm making sure that it doesn't go down the side of the embossing or the inside of, or down the side of the raised edge, if you know what I mean. I'm just taking it right to the top of that edge. And I'm making sure that it seeps into the little grooves, and here you can see that here. The paint goes on amazingly well. It's super saturated, and just look at that shine, you guys. It's incredible. This was so easy to paint. There really wasn't any kind of shading or watercolor skill involved in this. It was just really super easy to do. Now, normally when I use my metallic watercolors, I generally only use it for accents. I don't usually paint a whole card like this, so that's definitely a way you can stretch your supplies. And with these metallic watercolors, they're so saturated that you can do that. I think that this is the first time that I've actually painted it in an embossed piece of paper. I don't recall doing that before. I think I've colored it or ink blended it, but not watercolored it. Here's some close-ups so you can see the shine on these cards, and I hope you enjoyed these couple different ways that you can stretch your metallic watercolors and embossing folders and use them in different ways. Again, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I'll see you soon with more inspiration. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hello crafters, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching!